All right, guys, I hope you're well. This is just a quick introduction to our next step here, looking at World War II. Remember, the last couple of weeks we've been looking at the war, the background, and how it started, and then our last week assignment was specifically to look at the war in Europe from 1939 when it begins to 1941, and those are the years that the United States is not formally involved. So we're going to go back a bit quickly and focus on how the United States kind of moves from neutrality, which I think this cartoon clearly indicates many Americans do not want to get involved. War mad Europe, democracy begging Uncle Sam to stay out for democracy's sake as well as our country's sake. And this opinion is not, it's not an uncommon opinion in the middle of the 1930s before war begins. So I'll go back to that. My question that I want to kind of talk about with you guys for just a few minutes here as an introduction to our next couple weeks assignments is going to be, again, how does the United States move from being pretty neutral to not really being neutral at all? Okay, so let's go back here quickly. I've got a couple things to discuss, just introduce to you. So we'll review these neutrality acts quickly. In 1935, 36, 37, certainly the United States still in the Depression. And remember, World War II has not started yet. But it's clear that things are happening. And I want to just highlight that between 35 and 37, clearly the United States, and this is a congressional act, so Congress has passed this, clearly we are neutral. So we can't sell any weapons to any countries fighting. Belligerent nations means any nations. Axis, allies, good guys, bad guys, doesn't matter. 1936, we can't loan money. Banks can't loan money and give credit to anybody fighting. And then 37, you have Americans. The government actually goes to the extreme of preventing Americans from traveling on anybody's ships. Think about what happened with the Lusitania back in World War I. Also, quickly, something that's relative to this, in China, the Japanese had actually attacked an American gunboat called the Panay, and that also kind of focused our interest on this. So what I'm really getting at with this quickly then is, up to 1937, the United States is truly committed to staying out of any potential conflict. That will change, though. President Roosevelt saw what was coming. He began quietly working on preparing our budget to sustain a war. And then a couple months after the invasion of Poland, remember, September 39, the war has begun, the president's going to kind of insist that Congress change the neutrality acts and now to allow England and France to be exempted from restrictions. And what that means basically is that the United States can now give England and France, the allies, weapons. We can now loan them money. And clearly the United States is no longer neutral. However, remember, we will not get involved in this war until December of 41 after the Japanese attack us at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. So really the United States is no longer neutral, but we're not at war yet. Okay, 1941 then is the big year, and I'll quickly review this. I want to pause here because this is what we're going to be working on next week and the week after. But this is a speech where Roosevelt outlines why America should care about things not necessarily happening here, but abroad in the rest of the world. In March, we're going to start lending money and giving weapons to the Allies. I love this quote. It's one of my favorite. It's the right thing to do, but it's also better to put the fire out there before it spreads to your house. You can see the Atlantic Charter, just an agreement where you have a formal agreement, not an alliance. And then finally, in the fall of 41, Roosevelt goes so far as to order American vessels to shoot German U-boats on sight. So even before December of 41, when the United States is attacked, we are clearly not neutral. Okay? Hope you guys are doing well. We'll see you.